Yes, welcome in. We're back. Badgers, a little bit tough night, Jesse, on Saturday. Again, an evergreen way to start a show. It was a tough game.
Feels like a funeral in here, Zach.
What would you like me to start out instead? Would you like me to be happy? Would you like me to be excited? Because there's nothing to be excited about. There is nothing that happened on Saturday night that makes you feel, well, that was progress. That was good.
No.
There was a step in the right direction. It was 37-0, and it probably wasn't even that close.
It should feel like a funeral. I'm not blaming you. Yeah.
What an absolute abject disaster was Saturday night. And that has become way too frequent of a way for us to start shows. Way too frequent. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to talk about what went right. Spoiler, not a lot. What went wrong? Spoiler, a whole shit ton. And we'll get to your questions as well. Plenty to get to. If you're listening to this, why? Secondly, if you prefer to watch us instead, we do have a YouTube channel, the Camp YouTube. Go find it and subscribe. That will help us grow the show. I don't know if you saw this or not, Jesse, but there was a Carolina Panthers podcast that after last week just decided they're done. It's a fan podcast, but they're just done because there's too much bad football being played that they didn't think it was right and appropriate to continue to put out material for the public, because we just can't keep doing it. That's not what I'm saying we're going to do, but it at least crossed my mind for like half a millisecond. Either way, we're going to get into it. We appreciate everybody that is listening. I'm not trying to push anybody away, but we have a lot to get to, and a whole lot of it is not very positive. And for the first time, we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, the Badgers were not very good. All right. Let's start this with what went right.
For those taking bets on the over-under, take the under. So what went right? Ricardo Hallman had an interception. The defense had 5 tackles for loss. Dylan Jones ran hard. And that's all I have to say about that. Or maybe I should say what Dylan Jones said. We got our ass whooped. And that's all there is to say.
Dylan Jones ran hard. He looked good. That was the best he's looked. Ricardo Hallman did catch a touchdown. He also got run over multiple times.
Catch an interception.
What did I say?
A touchdown. There haven't been any touchdowns.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're good. I don't want people to be confused about what they saw and think they were living in an alternative universe where the Badgers could score a touchdown.
Yeah, Ricardo Hallman had a interception. That was a nice play. It was one of those yeah. Everything else will be going Iowa's way, so just, hey, screw it. Let's throw it up there, and it'll probably come down in our hands. That was the it felt like may have been the idea behind that throw. So, all right, what went wrong? What didn't go wrong? Is a much shorter list for Wisconsin, but I'll let you start this out.
Well, I'll start with this. This was the most indefensible performance of the Luke Fickell era, and I realize that it is a massive pile of horrible performances, which says a lot about how bad it was on Saturday night. The reason I say it is the most indefensible performance is because of what we talked about earlier in the week, Zach, and what Luke Fickell and his staff have discussed for 9 months. You got embarrassed last year at Iowa, 42-10 loss. You gave up 329 yards rushing, the most Wisconsin's defense had allowed in 13 years. So you revamped your defensive front to get bigger, to add depth, and Luke brought it up again on Monday. That game a year ago in Iowa City was why they made those changes. They needed to make changes for everybody else, but that was the one that you said, we cannot have this happen again. And then you spent the entire offseason in the weight room, on the field after workouts, focusing on this number 42. And I understand why they did it. Brady Collins is trying to motivate. I remember talking to Brady in the offseason about why 42 push-ups, a barbell hold for 4 seconds and then 2 seconds. And it's the idea behind it and the deeper meaning that he hoped would be instilled, that they hate it so much that they come to understand how valuable it is to play well against Iowa, because what happened a year ago is unacceptable. So you spent your entire offseason tailoring your plan for this specific game, and you come out and you get humiliated, embarrassed, pick whatever word you want. You lost 37-0, and you were shut out for the first time in 11 years since that 2014 Big Ten championship game. You're shut out against Iowa for the first time since 1996. You're shut out at home for the first time since 1980. You're shut out at home against Iowa for the first time since 1929. Like, I know you had all those numbers that you put out there. You've lost 9 consecutive games against Power 4 teams. You've lost your last 8 Big Ten games. You've been shut out in the first half of 3 of your last 4 games. All of those are bad, and yet this is worse. This is 9 embarrassing performances under Luke Fickell with still not a single signature win. And this one, above all the others, is indicative of where this program is right now, and frankly, where it feels like it's headed, because I do not see how you're going to win a single game the rest of the way. Maybe you come together and you win one game, perhaps Minnesota at the end of the regular season, but I can't say that they're going to win any of those games. The next 6 opponents on the schedule, I believe, are combined 31-6. And it's interesting because Luke talked after the game. You asked him where there had been progress or improvement or where they were better since he got here. And the one thing he said was he felt like, at least in fall camp before some injuries, though he wasn't trying to make excuses, there was incremental progress at all positions. But then he said, there's been a hell of a lot of incremental progress for all these other teams. And yeah, obviously. So it's to the point where watching this, and this is our jobs, it's painful to have to watch this. And I can't even imagine what it's like for Badgers fans to devote their time and energy, and in many instances, financial resources, to support a team that is giving you nothing in return.
All great points. You took everything I was going to say. But there is horribleness on top of horribleness, because I don't know how you come back from this. We talked about it this week, where you put so much into this. You put so much emphasis on this game throughout the entire offseason. If it doesn't go well, or if it happens again, where do you stand as a coach? Where do you stand as a leader and say, everything's okay, let's move forward, let's keep pounding the rock, let's keep on doing all the stuff that good teams do? They just have to keep the faith and keep going. How do you do that when you spend so much time hammering home this idea of Iowa beating the shit out of you last year, and then you come here and get the shit beat out of you once again? I don't know how you move on from this. I don't know how you grow from this. I don't know how you recover from this if you're not just this team, Luke Fickell. He has zero ground to stand on to say everything is going to work out. For a long time, it was, I did this at Cincinnati, everything's going to be fine. We're going to move. We're going to have some growing pains, but we're eventually going to get this thing going in the right direction. And the question I asked him at the end of the press conference was, do you think you're better now as a program than when you showed up? And there's just no way anybody can say that they are. They're not even on the same level. Like, they are worse now than when he took over. I don't think that there's any question about that. And yes, we can talk about the quarterback injuries. We can talk about injuries to the offensive line. That's fine. Had his offensive line healthy for the last 2 years. They barely had to fill anybody in. You are the ones that recruited Braden Locke. So, hey, guess what? Your fault. It sucks that the quarterback got hurt. I don't disagree whatsoever about that. But you can't run the ball. And you can't stop offenses when you need to. And you can't stop making stupid mistakes, whether it's your fault or whether it's a player's fault. Who do we put the blame on for Tyrese Fury coming out and getting into a guy's face and getting a penalty before the game even starts? Who gets blamed for that? Yes, Tyrese Fearbray. What are you doing? But that's a Luke Fickell. That is just not having control over your own team, not understanding that you need to play with that competitive maturity or competitive feeling and get after it. But that's just stupidity on his part. Like, just stupid. There's no reason for it whatsoever. And the only person that at this point has to hold that, and I should say there's two people. Tyrese, what are you doing? But also Luke Fickell, because this is your program. And it is not in a better position now than when he took over. So, I mean, he can talk about better talent. He can point to other teams being better. Guess what? You're not better. And yes, those other teams have gotten, yes, they are. Other teams in this conference are better than they were when you took over. You're not.
Yeah, and Luke did talk after the game about the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. I believe there were 3. One of them was offsetting. Another one was Daryl Peterson. Was it after a kick, I think? But
it was after the either extra point or field goal.
Yeah, and that I mean, he said they were stupid plays, and that's not the so-called competitive spirit that he's been talking about. But regardless of who's to blame, I would put it on I would put it on Fearbray. I mean, I understand you're the head coach, and also, can you control 100 dudes? You should, like, it's inexplicable. Or I would say it's inexplicable if we hadn't seen what Wisconsin football has been for so long. But you get a 15-yard penalty, and somehow Iowa doesn't score on that drive. But, of course, the next 3 drives, they get 17 points off turnovers. We're going to get into Hunter Simmons' performance or lack thereof and everything else that went wrong. But it was sort of indicative of the night and how fitting that they wore their throwback uniforms to the 1980s. I realized there were at least a handful of good years in the 1980s, but the way it ended was how it ended in this game, which is nobody in the bleachers other than probably 5,000 black and gold clad Iowa fans savoring every moment of this humiliation. This is as bad as it's been for the program since that time, because even when Barry Alvarez got here, hey, they may not have been very good, but they weren't losing 10 games over a year and a half by 2+ touchdowns. I mean, maybe they were. Maybe I can look at the stats, but you saw progress by year 2 and year 3, and this team is not making that progress.
Do you think they're in a better spot now than when he took over?
No, of course not. Again, It's indefensible. And measuring the talent, that's a tough thing to do, but you know how you measure it? By the performance on the field. And they're just getting absolutely annihilated. And the games in which Wisconsin is close, those are the aberrations. Okay, fans are just looking for some reason for optimism and hope. The people that still, their anger hasn't turned to apathy, so they've given up. And thank God for Wisconsin fans that the Brewers played last night and beat the Cubs and gave people reason to be happy. But 10-7 at the half against Michigan it felt like progress because it was Wisconsin hasn't embarrassed itself yet. And look at the other 3 games around that loss. I mean, you're down 21-0 at the half against Alabama, 20-0 at the half against Maryland, 23-0 at the half against Iowa. It's just mind-boggling to have to see the same thing over and over and realize that it doesn't feel to me like there is any end in sight. You're about to play the number 1 team in the country in Ohio State, who probably gets to decide how many points it's going to score, followed by a trip to Oregon. And Indiana, which just beat Oregon, is on the schedule. Illinois, Washington looks really good. And Minnesota may not be a great football team, but they're a heck of a lot better than Wisconsin right now. Beat Purdue and is now 4-2. So, man, it's just I know we've had a lot of episodes and shows and people talk about the lack of positivity, but show me why there's a reason to be positive right now.
Anybody that talks about a lack of positivity on the show can
kick rocks.
There are words that I'd like to use, but kick rocks, I think, is about the cleanest that we're going to go with that. Let's dive into some of the stuff in the game that went wrong. We can talk bigger picture stuff in a little bit as we get into our listener questions. But Hunter Simmons, holy shit, dude. We thought that there was a nice start last week against Michigan. There was some positivity to build off of. And then he goes and does make some of the worst decisions that I've seen a quarterback make. And I watched Braden Locke last year. So That's certainly saying something. I mean, the interceptions, the throw behind the line of scrimmage, like the backwards pass, like just absolute panic throws on some of these things, and just horrible decisions on other. I mean, who was the running back and who was the defensive lineman on that screen? Like, threw it right to him. There were just way too many easy throws, or I should say easy plays for Iowa to make the ball thrown right to them at times.
Yes, the first interception was tipped. The second one was, I don't even know you could possibly be looking at. Aaron Graves, the defensive lineman, went right to him, and he returns it down to the 1. And the defense did not play well, which we can get into. But when you start at the 1 yard line, kind of hard for you to have any chance. And all 3 of those scoring drives off the turnovers started in Wisconsin territory. So the other one, it's a backwards pass to Darian Dupree, who gets lit up and gets hurt and doesn't come back for the rest of the game. And it was I felt this is kind of a throwback reference. It was a Tanner McAvoy against LSU-esque performance. That was a game where McAvoy went 8 for 24 for 50 yards with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And this was a game where Simmons went 8 for 21 for 82 yards with no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and obviously had the fumble on the backwards pass. But a lot of these guys over time have talked about how they consistently beat themselves. And they like to say, like, oh, well, it's not anything the other team did, even though it is something the other team did. But this is what Wisconsin is. And it's funny because I'm thinking about some of the things the guy said after the game, and Christian Allegro gave a couple really good quotes. One of which was, I said, basically, so what is wrong with this program right now? I know that's a tough question in a big picture. He said, we have no identity. And he also talked about how he was trying to talk to some of the younger players about, this isn't Wisconsin football. And this is Wisconsin football for years now, consistently giving themselves no shot other than the occasional outlier where they're in a game only to fold when it matters most against quality competition. And I think it says a lot about where Wisconsin is as a program and a quarterback room, that despite that terrible performance, they did not change quarterbacks. I kept looking to see, is Danny O'Neil going to go in? And maybe he's more hurt than we realize. I honestly don't know. Luke was asked about the quarterback situation after the game and said that they probably should have made a change. The problem is, obviously, Billy Edwards Jr. is hurt, so that has wrecked a lot of things. Danny O'Neil has played a little bit and has 5 interceptions and been sacked 13 times. And the fact that you had a quarterback with this poor of a performance play the entire game says a lot about who else you have available. So, it was just a really bad quarterback performance. And Iowa led 17-0 with 90 seconds left in the first quarter because of all those mistakes. And the game was over. I mean, the game was over when it was 10-0, but by the time it was 17-0, you knew you could probably start writing your story. It was just a matter of how bad is it going to be, because Wisconsin has 20 total points in 3 Big Ten games and is the worst team in the Big Ten. I cannot even believe I said that sentence, because when this change was made 3 years ago, Wisconsin wasn't playing great football and was trending backwards, but was not the worst team in the Big Ten. And now you really have to look and find which teams are worse. Even UCLA started winning games.
Oh, UCLA is now easily in the top 12 of the Big Ten. Easily.
But initially I thought, all right, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, no brainer. UCLA is terrible. And now, like, even they're winning games. So it's just, it's a hot mess.
I mean, Purdue has now lost 12 straight Big Ten games. Wisconsin is on their heels at 8 straight Big Ten games. Maybe Purdue, maybe Penn State. I mean, we could sit here and say, if you wanted to twist this and turn this into a positive, Wisconsin is tied with the Big Ten preseason favorite in the conference right now. So they've got that going for them. They're tied with a preseason top 5 team in Big Ten play, with Penn State being 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue is probably worse,
Are
but the
no,
fact it's up for debate says a lot.
Purdue at least led a game. They put a scare into Minnesota last night. Wisconsin hasn't scared a single Big Ten opponent, I would say. I mean, maybe Michigan, but they came and took over in the third quarter and put up 450 yards. And they weren't afraid of Wisconsin's offense after the first drive, not afraid of Wisconsin's offense at all. So, yeah, that was brutal. And we've seen a lot of bad quarterback performances. I mean, how we saw Deacon Hill for Iowa two years ago be really, really bad. But it didn't matter because Wisconsin's offense was even worse. We've seen some very bad quarterback performances. I was going back. This is at least statistically the worst starting performance by a quarterback in Luke Fickell's tenure, easily. He posted a 51.8 quarterback rating. At one point, wasn't it negative?
Yeah, it was -1. I said I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Same. Had no idea. It felt like maybe they were potentially we're going to try and get Trech Kekahuna involved in that game. I thought it was a great catch he had on the first play of the offense. It wasn't overturned, and on the next play, he got knocked the heck out and done for the game. So that took one big weapon out. You mentioned Darian Dupree. He could not put any weight on his leg. He had to be carried off the field. And then Tyrell Henry also went out. So the injuries obviously piling up at other positions other than the offensive line as well now. And I think Tucker Ashcraft left and did not return. So not that it mattered at all. I'm just adding on to the pain that was Saturday night on offense for sure.
There's more pain on offense too. They still can't run the ball. I mean, I give Dylan Jones some credit. Like, he was running very hard all the way to the end, and that stood out to me. But it stood out because of how bad they were in all these other areas. They still didn't have a great yards per carry average, and it's a team that's averaging, I believe, 3.14 yards per carry all season, when that was the thing you were supposed to build your offense around. And I put this in the story just for the sake of comparison, but Don Morton's final year in 1989, when they were 2-9 and he got fired, and there were probably 17 people in the stands for the last game against Michigan State, at least they averaged 3.8 yards per carry. I know they couldn't do a damn thing and fumbled it 50 times and had, I think, 3 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions. So there were a heck of a lot more problems. But, like, that's more than half a yard per carry better than what we're having to witness right now. And when you can't establish the run, you're not going to have success anywhere else, especially with a quarterback in Hunter Simmons who has just been challenged to make something happen. I mean, he doesn't have any touchdown passes in his 2 starts.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all. So that's what they averaged. Did you go back and look and see what's the lowest they've averaged?
I did not at midnight on a Saturday go through all the numbers here, but I'm sure it's up there.
You got a plan? Yes. Well, you got some work to do today. Then
I got it.
Yeah.
I leave that up to you.
And I will take care of it. Obviously, have some other things in the sports world to look at here on Sunday and Monday and everything else. Basketball hold their Big Ten Media Day. Actually, it's not Big Ten Media Day, but Wisconsin Local Media Day. And Packers and the Brewers going to be in the National League Championship Series. Plenty of things to take people's mind off of what happened on Saturday night. But let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. And the whole thing was, can't let a team run the ball down your throat. Can't have what happened at Iowa City last year happen again. And it didn't. I mean, we can at least say that did not happen. They only ran for 210 yards this time and only averaged, 5.8 yards per carry. So positive, Jesse?
Incremental progress? No, of course not. They had 4 rushing touchdowns. And I mean, it wasn't a great defensive performance. Again, they were challenged by the fact that there were 3 turnovers with the ball in their own territory, but they didn't get stops when it mattered. And I know we've spent a lot of time talking about Wisconsin. This is a Wisconsin show. Iowa deserves a lot of credit for coming out here and doing like Wisconsin knew what Iowa was going to do, just as the Badgers said they knew what Iowa was going to do a year ago. And Iowa, their offensive line was just moving dudes out of the way. And that first touchdown was a 6-yard touchdown run. Guy didn't even get touched. I mean, Iowa deserves a lot of credit for, you want to talk about having an identity? You want to talk about all the things that Wisconsin used to be? Iowa is still that. And you can see the cavernous gap between these two programs where there's so much respect between these two schools. They did things in a similar way for so long. I think there is, at least, maybe among fans. Maybe not anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
but, for a long time, this was a rivalry that was built around the fact that these two teams were going to punch each other in the mouth. It probably came down to the fourth quarter of a one-possession game. And over time, that engenders a level of respect for the rising to the occasion in the moment. And, like, that's gone. I mean, this is 4 straight losses that Wisconsin's had against Iowa, with Iowa doing it the way that it's always done it. And it just shows you the difference between where these two programs are, and one program continuing to do things in a way that has an established identity, and one that is just completely lost right now.
That is not a historic rushing offense from Iowa. It's not. It is not last year. They were a better rushing team a year ago and had better players. Caleb Johnson, better players than they did a year ago. But Wisconsin made them look fantastic. Couple guys averaging over 6 yards a carry. Moulton, obviously, Williams. They couldn't tackle him. So yeah, I mean, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. They didn't really need to throw the ball. They were not impressive throwing the ball whatsoever. I can see why Iowa fans are upset and not maybe overly impressed with Mark Gonrowski. What is it? Gronowski. Thank you. I was about to say gonorrhea, which is ridiculous. I don't even know I have it on the mind. But moving on. The it is.
If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Yeah, no, I was trying to think.
How are you gonna get out of that one, Zach?
No, I don't give a shit. I couldn't remember the exact. There was a TV show that they used to call, whoever it was that. So moving on, he wasn't impressive. Right? Like, I don't think, like, throwing the ball, he was not impressive. There were a whole bunch of just ugly throws. I can see why Iowa fans are a little upset. And anybody that stops the run is going to stop Iowa's offense because they can't throw the ball very well either. But they do have some nice players. There's no doubt about that. Some really, really good players on the offensive line, some really nice running backs. Wisconsin made them look much, much better than they probably are, but that is what it is. And I'll give Iowa's defense a hell of a lot of credit as well. Like, that is a good Iowa defense. Is it the type of Iowa defense that we have seen throughout the years? Probably not. But against Wisconsin, they look like the 1985 Bears, because Wisconsin's offense just isn't dynamic at all. Probably the opposite of dynamic. But yeah, Wisconsin's defense, they knew exactly what was coming their way, and it didn't matter. Iowa did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. And you talk about respect. Quite honestly, I don't think Iowa has any respect for Wisconsin at this point.
As a program?
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
I agree. I was more referring to
previously. I know what you're saying.
Yes, before. Of course not. I mean, they could do whatever they want right now. Like, why should they respect Wisconsin? And it didn't help, obviously, in the offseason in the spring. I know that Daryl Peterson was trying to make a point about Iowa traditionally, but he said about whoever heard of Iowa scoring 40 points. Well, they did it multiple times a year ago. They did it to you last year, and that was a rallying cry for the Hawkeyes this offseason. And the last thing he needed to do was give Iowa bulletin board material. And, I mean, I kind of just thought they were going to figure out a way to get to 40 on Saturday, but 37-0 is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, there's zero respect for Wisconsin's program down at Iowa right now. I certainly think Kirk Ferentz respected Paul Chryst and the way that Wisconsin would about things. I think he has zero respect for. He'll never come out and say it, but zero respect for what this program is and the way it's going right now. And that's not just the way. That's not just because of what's happened. I think it's because they just threw tradition and everything else out the window because they thought they knew better. A bunch of Ohio people thought they knew better, and here we are. So, anything else? Oh, Atticus Bertram's a very nice 17-yard punt, 18-yard punt. That was good. Anything else?
Now I'm sure it's time for the questions and the big picture. So let's get to it.
What drive did Wisconsin? Did they even get in the red zone yesterday?
Oh, I don't think so.
I'm just looking here.
I need to
No,
look.
they were not.
No, they got to the Iowa 35 at the end of the game on the last drive. They got to the Iowa 37 earlier and turned it over on downs. So,
no. I'd like to mention one thing. The officials, and more so, I don't know how it didn't get reviewed. First drive was, you had the one review, or maybe not the first drive, but maybe it's the second drive. You get the one review, Tretch didn't catch it. The second review where he fumbled after he got the crap knocked out of him. And then there was a throw to Chris Brooks where the first down would have been at the 44-yard line. Based on what we saw on TV, I'm not sure if it was a first down, but it certainly was not at the 43, which is where the ball ended up being placed. And Wisconsin just, instead of even potentially letting it get to a review, they just sent out the punting unit and punted it. First of all, why not consider going for it there? You're around midfield. Again, I'm sure Luke Fickell in that moment thought this is going to be a field possession game and we need to try and back them up and all that good stuff. I certainly get that, but it was a horrible spot. At least force them to consider reviewing the spot. They didn't, punted it, and that might have been their best scoring opportunity until late in that game. So, not that it mattered, obviously, for many reasons, but I could maybe just indicative. I feel like they should have looked at that one. Can I get an agreement on that one?
I do agree.
All right. I was hoping for a little bit more than that because I got to find the questions.
Yes, I do agree. I don't agree with the fact that they should have gone for it. You can't trust this offense to even get 1 yard. And on your side of the field early in a game where you think it's going to be a field position battle, and you and I both thought coming into the game it was going to be a one-possession game in favor of Iowa. Don't fault the decision to punt. Certainly fault the spot. But as you said, it was not going to matter.
Yeah. To expand, I found one stat that I meant to actually bring up about Wisconsin's first half performance in games. You kind of mentioned it, but outscored 112-17 in the first half of the last 6 games against Power 4 opponents, including being held scoreless 4 times. That is bad offense. Is this the worst offense since the 80s?
Like statistically or just eye test or what?
I mean, they've scored 20 points in what? 3 games here in conference play? Yes, I think it's yeah. What do you think?
I mean, this is the worst team and the worst the program has been since they fired Don Morton. And I know they went 1-10 in Barry Alvarez's first year. But Barry will tell you at least they were in games. They just didn't have the talent. And you can make that excuse in year 1 when you're building, and by year 3 you look better. And by year 3 now, they don't look better. They look worse.
So I put out the question. It was, what time did the game start?
6:10, something like that.
Put out the call for questions at 7:17. I had thought about doing it much earlier than that. I held off, but I should have done it when it was 3-0. But because I mean that was an insurmountable lead at that point. But yeah, I put out the call for questions, and y'all responded. Let's start with this one. Nathan says, overreaction or no, this is worse than the Don Morton era.
overreaction. The on-field product there was, I think, worse than this. But the reason I can see the argument on the other side is the stakes are so much higher now. In the late 1980s, if you went to a bowl game, it was cause for celebration. Now, given where Wisconsin is now, that would feel like a reason to celebrate. But you know what I mean? They specifically talked about, Chris McIntosh talked about these so-called championship level expectations. And we're coming off a decade where the team appeared in 6 Big Ten championship games. And this team is as far off the radar as it's been since the end of the Don Morton era. And there was money at stake. You have NIL. It's a constant arms race in a way that college football was not like this in the late 1980s. And so, again, when you have fan anger turn to apathy, how are you going to generate interest and revenue and everything you need to be competitive in a league that is way harder than it was back then with all these teams getting better? But so for that, like that reason, I can see the argument, but strictly on-field product-wise, I mean, that 3-year tenure of Don Morton, they went, I think, 3-21 in Big Ten play. They had 120 fumbles. I mean, it was just a different low level, but this is as close as Wisconsin has been to that.
It is absolutely on that level because, and potentially worse, they put nothing into the program back then. It was a afterthought. The university did not, like the people at, on Bascom Hill just did not care about football. They didn't. It didn't matter. And perhaps maybe Jennifer Minukin doesn't care. I feel like she probably does, considering the amount of money that it brings in and some of the money that the athletic department then transfers to the school or has in the past. But they didn't care about football. It wasn't until Donna Shalala came in and thought the idea of the football program and really the athletic department being the front porch of your university to draw people to your university through athletics. And she was right on that. And we're able to turn it around. But in Morton's era, they just did not care at all about athletics. And so they didn't put a whole lot of effort into it, which means didn't put a whole lot of money into it. The entire athletic department was in the red. It was a bad situation. You had like the faithful 5,000 at basketball games. Like it was bad. They didn't care. They put so many resources into this program, both whether it's financially through donations from people like season ticket holders and all that good stuff, or you've got the big process of building this whole new practice facility. Like they put a lot of resources into, they put a lot of resources into this program. So yes, it's worse for me because you're actually trying. Back then they weren't trying. You're trying and you're still putting this product on the field. I think it makes it worse. Now, maybe there are some that would say, I mean, when you don't try, that sucks too. But I think at this point, it's worse because they're actually trying, and it still looks brutal. So,
completely understandable argument. Mine is simply on-field product. What you're witnessing, though, the margin is slim between the two.
Ben says, will Ohio State put up a Hyundai on this team?
No. I feel confident in that answer. 500? I mean, I feel like they can take their pick. And I do wonder about this team's ability to respond or get ready for that game, given everything that's transpired. You've lost 4 in a row. By the end of October, you're probably going to be facing a 6-game losing streak. And Ohio State is they just beat the brakes off Illinois on the road. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. I'll say that.
Keaton says, we've talked about adversity on episodes recently, but based on the rush defense falling apart, has this team just completely rolled over for the rest of the season, especially given the rest of the season schedule?
Well, that's a question asking if they've quit.
Yes.
I'm not going to go that far. I never like to, I don't know what the thought process is for the 100 dudes on the roster. They're still showing up, but there is clearly a lack of belief in themselves, which starts at the top. And when something starts to spiral, they're not able to fix it, but they're also just not good enough on an execution level. So it's all these things. I don't. So I'm not going to say like they have rolled over, but all these other teams are better than them in so many different areas. So I don't know if they win another game this season. And at a certain point, yeah, you probably do start to question those things, but I just don't know if I can say that about the players.
Has Luke Fickell quit?
No, I don't
Sure.
think so. I mean, I thought
He sounded defeated.
I thought the post game press conference with Luke was interesting. Willing to be introspective and say all, and again, how many times have we said this? I opened the show last week about here's this quote that he said, Zach, when is that from? And they all sound the same because what else is there to say? But he used the word dumbfounded, which I think is a good word to use. Like, well, when we're in practice, I have good feelings, and then we show up and we do this. He doesn't have any answers. He has never had any answers, and I don't know how he's going to come up with those answers in the future. So he talked about he's going to continue to fight and try and lead this team. I do think that their questions should be asked about are the messages being delivered heard? And that's a slippery slope and a tricky one too, because it's like, how much do we put on the lack of talent and the talent gap between Wisconsin and some of these other teams? But they are also playing teams that they should be able to stay with. So it's like it's a confluence of circumstances, I think, is the point that I'm making. I'm not going to say that he's quit, but he doesn't have any answers. And I just am looking at this thinking, how does this end with him doing anything positively for this program right now? It's not going to happen this year.
He fully admitted he has no idea what to do.
Yeah. He said that before. And even when he tries to answer questions, there are no answers.
If your coach has no idea what to do, what is his point? What does he bring here? I get that he has not been in this position before as a coach where things are just bad and they continue to stay bad and they do not improve. I get that. What is your role then? Why are you here? Why are you still here? You have no answers to fix the problem that is evident to everybody. And I guess maybe that's not a question for him. Maybe that's a question for Chris McIntosh. It's clear he has no idea how to fix this. And even if he did, would you believe him? Would you trust him? Would you say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go. The pound the rock thing, great. Awesome. Means nothing. Means nothing at this point. It just doesn't. It's all window dressing, which is quite honestly pretty much what this entire thing has been for the last 2.5 years. There's no substance to it. There has been no substance to any of the words that have come out from Luke Fickell. So I guess it goes into this question. John says, I understand there's a buyout on the university side, but based on Fickell's post-game comments, any chance he looks to negotiate a lower buyout and the parties can go their separate ways?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't see him quitting. I don't see him giving up. I think he'll fight until the end. But I also don't see how this program puts itself in a position to feel like there's enough progress to keep this thing going. I mean, I just, how can anybody, based on what they've seen, feel like it's going to magically change? You get to 2026, and I get the roster is going to be different, assuming Luke is still here. But I don't see that. I just don't see the so-called exit strategy, as we've heard behind the scenes, as it relates to Bill Belichick at North Carolina, because that's an embarrassing disaster. I don't see that happening here.
Let's talk about this, because everyone's calling for it. So many people want it. They want it out. The problem here is, you're right. What is the next move after that? And to be completely fair, why should Chris McIntosh have any ability to make that decision? Whether it's to fire him or to hire the next guy. I don't understand why Chris McIntosh. Can you hear that or no? Hank's such a camera hog. It's insane. The thing about this, the long-term thing that happens here when you try and decide whether to fire Luke Fickell, if you're Jennifer Mnuchin, because I would assume Chris McIntosh has to be like, this is what we're doing. Maybe not, but I can't imagine in what world that Chris McIntosh, who made this move to bring in Luke Fickell, that he should get an opportunity to make the next hire. So shouldn't he have to go first?
Probably. I mean, it comes down to trust and decision making, and you take a big swing and it's not working out right now. And it's not like you take a big swing and you hire an offensive coordinator and 2 years later you fire him. That's different from making the kind of change that you do where you fire a coach at midseason for the first time in program history. And then look, I'm not going to argue the decision in the moment. Everybody was feeling like, or the majority of people were feeling like, wow, this is the hottest name in coaching. Look at all these other programs that wanted him. Wisconsin was able to get him. He had great success at Cincinnati. Hindsight is 2020, but you made that decision. You made your bed and you have to lay in it right now. And so if it doesn't work, which it isn't, I agree with you. I don't know how you can be tasked with making those future decisions. And I think there's going to be a lot of conversations after the season about the direction things are headed.
It's so clear, though, that everyone talked about home run hire. It's so clear that neither side did their homework on the other. Correct? I think especially Luke Fickell did not do his homework on this job at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we've how many times do you say in that first season, I didn't realize. Like, yeah. Why didn't you realize that? Why didn't you know about these things?
I'm not going to fault Wisconsin's side for a lack of homework on Luke Fickell. Like, everything was out there that looked pretty damn good. I mean, you go to Cincinnati for 7 years and you build that program into the only group of 5 program to go to the college football playoff. Like, that's pretty ironclad. Now, you do have to ask about the lack of ties to the program. And we went through this before a decade ago with Gary Anderson, though Gary obviously wanted a higher clip. And I mean, we can get into so much big picture stuff, and that may be for another show, but there are things that are really unique to Wisconsin's program. And this is yet another example of why it's important to have, I think, people around who understand what those unique characteristics are. And I go back to Luke talking about his maybe respect for Wisconsin from afar and what he felt he understood. But yes, it became very clear very early on that he didn't truly understand Wisconsin. And these are decisions that coaches make basically like this. I mean, I understand there was some behind the scenes discussion that probably went on more than a 24-hour span, but ultimately, if you are the coach, you're busy coaching another program and you're not coming to Madison to check everything out and to get an understanding of it. You just kind of take, as Luke Fickell has said, leap of faith or blind faith that it's going to work out. And they try to do the things they did at Cincinnati here. And that's just not how it's worked here. So, I mean, I think it's fair to say there was not a whole bunch of homework done on his part on what Wisconsin was about. And he's acknowledged many times the arrogance and delusion, either on his part or the program's part, but like he didn't know what he was walking into here. And obviously now you're in the middle of a mess and it's hard to figure out how you dig your way out.
Overreaction or no, Melvin Gordon in his best game will end up with more rushing yards for that game than the top rusher will have for this season.
So, I mean, 408 yards against Nebraska in 3 quarters.
Yep.
What's Stone Jones got?
286.
Overreaction, assuming Dylan can stay healthy.
I mean, Dylan's now over 4 yards a carry, so that's impressive, right? I mean, if we were to take out the sacks out of that 3.1 number, it goes up a little bit. Certainly, especially with what Dylan, the way he ran on Saturday night, that was the best that he's looked. And there were some, but I don't want to turn positive here, but
Oh.
there were some holes. So a lot of, especially some of the cutback stuff, there was a lot of his ability to cut back. Guys were washing guys down, and he had the ability to cut back several times. And there were some nice looking holes at points on Saturday night. So that was, I apologize for being positive there for 10 seconds. I will go back to talking about how horrible this is. John says, what's it like as a reporter to cover a team that's struggling this much?
Well, I guess this is a segment we get to make about us. I mean, we both get paid to cover this team, which is a privilege. There are a lot of other jobs out there that I would never want to do. My dream was to do what I'm doing now. Having said that, it's depressing. I don't know. Is that too strong of a word? Like, it's a challenge. It's an extreme challenge to have to come and watch this product every week and then try to come up with stories and questions that are different from what you've seen before. And again, I'm not going to act like, I don't know, this is a serious job. I'm not performing surgery. I'm not curing cancer. I'm not doing a lot of other things. But for what this is and this profession is, it's become a bit of a challenge in terms of how you cover a program like this. And I never thought it would get to this point. I've talked before. My first season was 2011, and they went to the Rose Bowl, and I thought, hey, this is what it is at Wisconsin. This is why I came to cover this program, as top 25 football and men's basketball program. And on the football side, they are so far from what that was and where they said they wanted to go. It's tough, and no one's in a great mood around the facility, and no one has any answers. And you start to look at what does the future hold and how does it get better. I always say I root for the story, right? I mean, whether Wisconsin wins or loses, that's not my job. My job is to tell the story, but it is much more challenging to deal with this every single week. As I've said before, you can take some of the talking points we've had on this show in the past year or two and just repeat them now. So yeah, it's not easy, and it's not particularly fun or enjoyable. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I have to say on that. But we keep showing up and we do our best to try and enlighten people and entertain people if that's possible at this stage, and try to provide some big picture perspective on how we got here, what's happening, and where things will go from here.
We're just going to keep pounding the rock. That's what we do. Just keep pounding the rock. But yes, I mean, it's miserable to come here and have to talk about the negative stuff all the time. I'm not going to lie about that. I think it's extremely tiresome. Just like it would be extremely tiresome if every game, it probably wouldn't be because people would actually enjoy that. But like where they just come in and beat the crap out of every single team, and that would probably not be that would be more enjoyable than that'd be better than this, just because I feel like we've been mirrored in this for so long. It feels so. I mean, 2019 feels like 100 years ago, where you had a legit offense and you're winning games and people are having fun, and there's just no fun being had. Not for us, though. Not getting to go to a bowl game and enjoy that with you and everybody else that every other media person that goes. Like we don't get to do that. That's unfortunate, but that's a very media thing to talk about.
Well,
look, it's not fun. It's not fun to do this because people are not happy. People are upset. People are angry. It's not fun to have to go and talk to players about how bad you are. It's not fun to have to ask Luke Fickell questions about why. But do you think this program's in a better spot than it was when you showed up? Like, those aren't fun questions. Do you think you're the person for this job moving forward? Like, that's not a fun question to ask. There's nothing fun about this at all.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, each week you try to come up with a plan for how you're going to cover a program. And at a certain point, it's almost like you're at a loss. Well, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to write or talk about that's differentiating? And at a certain point, it's like there are certain stories that almost don't even feel appropriate given the gravity of the terribleness right now. And what I mean by that is, like, if a guy has 5 catches for 40 yards, like, okay, he played well, but fans don't care about that right now. So I also try to look at it as how do you provide coverage that's going to be reflective of, what fans want to see. So anyway, yeah, enough about us, I suppose.
Overreaction or no? The only reason Chris McIntosh does not fire Fickell this season is because it would look bad for him.
Well, I think there's a few reasons here. Yeah, I mean, that's true. It would certainly look bad for him. There's a lot of money at stake. It'd be waving the white flag on certainly the decision that you made. And again, should you be tasked with making the next decision? And you just said, not that this matters because you've said before, a public endorsement of your coach. You just said that a couple weeks ago. So I don't know. Like, yeah, that's obvious. It would look bad for him.
Overreaction, no, the Badgers will end the season with the fewest points scored by a Power 4 team this year.
I'd have to look at the stats. I mean,
I got them
give
for
them
you.
to me. Who's
I got them
worse?
for you. Wisconsin right now is ranked 131st in scoring offense at 15.5 points per game. They've scored 93 points in 6 games. Oklahoma State is 130th. They have scored 99 points in 6 games. So they're averaging a point more per game than Wisconsin. They are the only 2 teams. The next closest Power 4 team would be North Carolina at 18.8 points per game. So
this was specifically about Power 4 teams, right?
Correct, because Massachusetts right now has scored 9.7 points per game. They are last in the country.
I think Wisconsin will finish last.
Okay. So that's not an overreaction.
No.
Overreaction, no. Whitewater would perform better than Wisconsin in the Big Ten.
Overreaction. No disrespect to Whitewater.
Insult.
Come on.
Biggest question, does Fickell still have a job on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Would he still have a job on Tuesday if you were calling the shots?
Oh, man. Yes. Who are you gonna put in there as your interim coach?
Who gives a shit? They are a horrible team.
People.
They're not winning another game. So I don't really care who the interim coach would be. Like I've seen, we had a conversation with somebody else in the press box last night about that. Like, who would you put in here? Who cares? Literally, who cares? It does not matter. Either, I mean, if you do not want Luke Fickell to be your coach, you don't worry about who the next guy is going to take, who is going to step in as the interim coach. It just does not matter. You have guys that have not pro or head coaching experience, but Matt Mitchell was a head coach at D3 level for how long? You don't think he could take over as he's the associate head coach now. Like he could absolutely take over if you needed him to. There's no reason. That is not a reason in my mind for not firing Luke Fickell.
All right, so Tuesday, would you make that decision?
Yes, absolutely. What happened on Saturday night is inexplicable, horrible, and it cannot continue. There is nothing that I've seen this year that suggests this is moving in the right direction. In fact, I think it's moving in the wrong direction and at a pretty significant pace at this point. There is no reason, and there's no, I mean, again, unless us as, there's nothing. They could win it. They could beat Ohio State on Saturday. It would be a fluke. I didn't say at Ohio State. I mean, they could beat Ohio State. It would be a fluke, and it would not matter. It would be a fluke. Jesse, have you seen anything that suggests this is going in the right direction?
No, but that makes Ohio State an impossibility.
Okay, so throw that out the window. You've seen nothing. Why would you hold on to him?
No, I totally understand your argument. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, well, what are you waiting for then? You get to the end of the season and you haven't won another game. Do you give them a year 4? And then it's a lot of existential questions right now about what you do here and how do you get out of this to put yourself in better position later.
Again, I'm not taking into account the money that is owed. I'm not taking into any of that. I'm just purely speaking from a football perspective. There is no sign of improvement. Zero. There is sign of even further regression. Absolutely. We're talking about them as the worst team in the Big Ten. Chris McIntosh when he hired was him talking about championships. You are not coming anywhere close to what you set out to do here. In fact, you are so much further away from that than even 3 years ago. I just don't know why you would continue to go down this road. Now, again, I don't get to make those decisions, obviously, and that's a very, very good thing for everybody because I'm an idiot. But the fact is, I don't see the point of it, and I guess more so than anything, I certainly don't care or understand or really give anything about it who the interim coach would be. It just does not matter. It doesn't. That should not be a reason you don't fire Luke Fickell. If you don't want to fire Luke Fickell for financial reasons, okay, I get that.
Well, you asked the question unrelated to financial reasons. Like that is a huge reason.
Yes, exactly. I get it. No, I get it. So you're saying that there weren't financial things, you would say fire him?
It'd be more likely to trend in that direction. I don't know. I don't know pulling the plug 6 games into the season, other than it would give you a head start on the next guy. But I don't know.
There are so much. I don't think it's a knee jerk to say fire him. I don't think that would be a knee jerk reaction. They're not going to do it. Perhaps I may have jumped the gun here, and maybe I'll bring myself back a little bit. But it's just so tiring and so tiresome to show up and see that product every single game that I don't understand what the next move is here. I don't know how you come back from last night because you put so much into this and so much about your offseason and so much about your program was about what happened last year. And now you can't. And then you go and fall flat on your face. What leg does he have to stand on? Why would anybody listen to him at this point, especially in that locker room? Like, why? I don't get it. Why would you do that? And perhaps they never were. And that's what happens. But they're in such a bad spot. And I just don't know. I don't see how it gets better with this group. So we are way over. I did not get to half the questions that you guys sent in. I will attack those on Tuesday and perhaps be a little bit more clear-headed on exactly what is the next step. Because I don't see it. And quite honestly, I think it's pretty clear that Luke Fickell doesn't see that next step either, because he certainly didn't have anything after the game on how to go about fixing what is ailing this team right now. But it doesn't get any easier. Number one, Ohio State coming to Camp Randall on Saturday afternoon. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk more about Wisconsin football. Yay. All right. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach. Talk soon.
All right. There it is. Jesse Temple from Badger Connect. You've been listening to The Camp.